Death is not the end. It's a frequency shift. Death is not a wall. It's a veil. And that veil is made of frequency. We're conditioned to view death as a hard stop, a void, a vanishing, a blackout. But when we zoom out of this narrow materialist lens, we find a more intricate and beautiful truth. Death is a shift in energetic bandwidth. The physical body operates on a dense frequency. It's the crystallized expression of your consciousness, vibrating slowly enough to become visible and tangible. But you are more than that. You are energy. You are waveform. What you call you is layered: physical, etheric, emotional, mental, astral, causal. As if the brain creates consciousness, then when it dies, you're gone. Like a radio receiver that tunes in and gives shape to invisible frequencies. The brain focuses vast, non-local consciousness into a linear human experience. At death, the densest layer, your body, ceases to sustain the vibration of life. But the rest of you doesn't die. And what was once funneled through the lens of time, space, and ego identity begins to return to its original state. Expanded, unconfined, aware beyond limits. Something was observing. Something remained. It decompresses like vapor escaping a sealed container. Your heart beats because of voltage differentials. Your thoughts fire through electrical synapses. Your cells communicate via subtle ionic charges. And the fear of death begins to dissolve when we realize we're not dying. We're recalibrating into subtler light. Your identity reconfigures, your senses rearrange, and you begin to perceive a spectrum that was always there, just hidden behind the slowness of form. The entire system discharges, like a battery releasing its final current. There's a real energetic event occurring, and it's not just symbolic. You're watching the light body activate. You don't stop. You shift channels. The ancient traditions speak of the silver cord breaking. In modern language, we might say, the subtle biofield detaches from its dense anchor. Discharge, your soul essence lifts. The brain doesn't create consciousness. It filters it. And depending on your inner state, that breath either becomes an ecstatic liberation or a confused ricochet. Which is why the quality of our inner life shapes the tone of our transition. You don't get a heaven or hell based on doctrine. You experience vibrational spaces that match your frequency, not just as a symptom of death, but as a sacred passage. This is often when people report tunnels of light, life reviews, or merging with higher intelligence. You enter spaces where the resonance feels familiar. Light beings, soul family, panoramic life reviews, clarity. The last breath is more than lungs failing. It is a spiritual exhalation, a returning of spirit to source. Life and death are not opposites. They are mirrors. And your soul's death journey doesn't begin at death, it begins now. The energy you live in is the path you die on. They meditated on death, practiced ego dissolution, fasted, entered altered states not to flirt with darkness, but to familiarize themselves with the great transition. In fact, every moment you surrender ego, fear, identity, or control is a micro-death, and these are the training grounds for conscious dying. Feel the death of one breath, become the birth of the next. Feel the death of one identity making space for another. When you no longer fear death, you begin to live in a completely different frequency, one of courage, clarity, and soul embodiment. It reminds you that you are not your roles, your possessions, or your stories. All of it falls away, leaving only what's real. Upon death, you gravitate toward realms and experiences that match those fields, not as punishment, but as energetic continuity. Most people believe the brain produces consciousness the way a factory produces goods. But this is a mistake, and one that makes death terrifying. You become fully present. You stop wasting time. You start seeing others with softness. You start saying what matters when you understand its nature. Not as annihilation, but as remembering. You are liberated from the world's greatest lie, that you are a body destined to rot. Hebrew ruach means spirit, breath, and wind. In Greek, pneuma is both soul and air. Breath is not just a physiological function. It is your tether to life. When you breathe your last, it's not just a ceasing, it's a surrender. And the more gracefully you practice this while alive, the more radiant and effortless your real transition becomes. But mounting evidence from neuroscience, near-death experiences, psychedelics, and mystical traditions all points to another truth. The brain doesn't create consciousness. It modulates it. This explains why people who flatline in hospitals often report crystal clear awareness, multidimensional vision, and memory of what doctors were doing even when the brain had zero measurable activity. At death, the filter collapses. The aperture widens. You don't disappear, you disidentify. You remember, body's a bioelectric battery, and death is the final discharge. The human body is not just a sack of meat. It's a precision-engineered electromagnetic matrix, a living, breathing capacitor of cosmic energy. But what happens when this voltage fails? What occurs when your bioelectric system shuts down? Death is the moment your body's electric field collapses. The breath stops. The heart ceases its rhythm. Cellular communication grinds to a halt. But here's the key. That discharge isn't wasted. It transfers. It's why many report seeing a light or feeling their body below them at the moment of death. The last breath is a portal, not just a reflex across cultures and lineages. The final breath has been revered. In Sanskrit, prana is life force carried by breath. Many esoteric teachings describe the final breath as activating the pineal gland, flooding the brain with a natural compound that launches awareness into expanded vision. You don't black out. You breathe out the boundary between worlds. Your death mirrors your energetic state, not your beliefs. One of the most powerful truths hidden from modern culture is this. Death doesn't reward belief. It reveals resonance. If your life has been lived in fear, attachment, rage, or guilt, these frequencies form the tuning of your soul field. If you've cultivated inner peace, presence, openness, and love, your transition is often smooth, luminous, and guided. This is the deeper meaning of the phrase, as above, so below. Conscious death is a skill you can cultivate while alive. You don't need to wait until the end to practice letting go. Mystics, yogis, and initiates across traditions have long practiced this. Dying well is an art, and you can begin now. Inhale with full presence. Exhale with full release. Each time you release something you once clung to, you're preparing. Conscious living is conscious dying, and vice versa. Death is the final teacher, and the great liberator here is the secret hidden in plain sight. Death is not to be feared. It is to be befriended. Why? Because death strips away illusion, collapses the ego's games. To walk with death beside you is not morbid, it is radiant. Death is the ultimate initiator. No, you are a soul learning how to fly. Death is simply your return to the sky.